Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about when animals attack. Animal attacks are just about the scariest thing on Survivor, short of Russell's Pits. But how common are they really? The answer is not very, and the seasons you'd expect would have had more dangerous wildlife encounters. Africa, Guatemala, Gabon actually didn't have any noteworthy animal attacks. Still, creatures from land, sea, and sky have occasionally bit, stung, and even squirmed into the survivors. And I want to talk about my favorite, the most iconic animal attacks in Survivor history. Am I ranking the pain of others? Yes, I am. In this video, I'll talk about who got attacked, by what, and what ultimately happened to them. And despite the seriousness of this topic, I promise you they are almost all hilarious.
I need somebody who has to pee.
So don't get bit by a freaking crocodile, try not to get stalked by a pelican, and pull the worms out of your ears as we talk about Survivor's craziest animal encounters. At number 5 is Rob getting stung by a stingray in Survivor Thailand. In episode 5 of Thailand, Rob's redemption arc was in full swing. He was no longer the yokel choker of episodes past. He was a brand new man, an arc which was nearly cut short when he was splashing around in the water, as one does, and he was stung on the foot by a stingray.
Kind of an easy day because we really didn't have a whole lot to do. When we heard Rob scream, and that's nothing unusual for Rob, so nobody thought too much about it early.
To understand the reaction to this, you've got to understand who Rob is. Rob is 2003 personified, lip piercing, bucket hat. The man brought a skateboard as his luxury item to the beach. He had the energy of a toddler and the vocabulary of a Modern Warfare 2 lobby on Xbox 360. God, why is Rob Zabachnik of all people making me nostalgic for the early 2000s? Nevertheless, Rob's tribe was otherwise more or less full of actual adults who were at first annoyed by, then chose to just ignore his antics, as is typical with obnoxious children. And they continued that trend here. Thankfully, after his stingray attack, Rob recovered on the beach for a bit, got that foot all bandaged up, and continued on in the game. And he did it all with the quiet dignity of a Benedictine monk.
Damn it, it hurts!
There's not much more to this one, honestly. But because this is Rob, it always kind of struck me as like something out of a Tony Hawk level. Like, get 50 points for kick flipping the stingray in the beach on the Thailand level. Rob, you're gonna have to restart. At number 4 is the bug crawling into Jenny's ear in Survivor Kaoh Rong. Oh man, we've had some creepy crawly attacks in the past, but for me, nothing was more upsetting to watch than the time Jenny spent with a bug in her ear. Truly one of the most nightmarish, panic-inducing situations ever on the show. Jenny was ready to hit the ground running in Survivor Kaoh Rong. She had an early alliance with Scott and Jason. She was unafraid of big moves. She was a Survivor superfan ready to tear this season up. But this bug had a big move of its own. Specifically, moving into her ear canal. In a season with Caleb's terrifying medevac, Mount Neal's eruption, and Jason's anus air freshener tattoo, this is still the most difficult thing to watch on this season for me, as Jenny screams helplessly in agony, ear bleeding. I think it's because it's the kind of situation any one of us can picture ourselves in, and you know the panic and discomfort you'd feel. My favorite part of the whole thing is when Scott and Sydney are looking in her ear, and for a while they just don't do anything as the bug crawls in and out of it. According to Jenny, the bug was in her ear for about 24 hours before medical came and sprayed an antibiotic solution in her ear, which is actually what caused it to crawl out here. And they only came to help when her agony reached a fever pitch. It's a fitting start to one of the most physically difficult seasons of Survivor ever. And given Jenny's later gameplay, I actually think it may have eaten at least part of her brain. At number 3 is a sea urchin stinging John on the hand while he was out fishing in Survivor Marquesas. Sea urchin stings can be very painful. like severe pain bad enough to cause nausea or vomiting. It is an intense pain localized to a pinprick, and given the massive pain it can cause, it is important to treat right away. A long-standing myth says that peeing on the site of the sting will dissolve the remaining spines in the wound and relieve the pain. Now, I'm no expert on either sea urchin stings nor the curative powers of urine, but my understanding is that this is actually not true. But John either didn't know that or was willing to roll the dice given the intense pain he was in after the sting.
I need somebody who has to pee. I need somebody who can pee on my hand.
Oh, Rodney's ears are tingling. I love how like half the tribe is ready to pee all over John's hand. Pascal was up first, but his old man bladder didn't work, so that's a no-go. Of course, Kathy then springs into action. Splashes into action? And pees on John's hand for a really, really long time. Perhaps even an uncomfortable amount of time. But afterwards, John was relieved, and so was Kathy's bladder. Now, Google tells me that peeing on a sea urchin sting doesn't do anything except get pee on you. And yet, John's relief here is palpable. So, what's the explanation? Either John's relief was a placebo effect, the pain of the sting was subsiding on its own, or Kathy is the worst X-Man ever. We may never know. At number 2 is Richard getting attacked by a shark in Survivor All-Stars. On its face, like if we are just looking at the headline, this is one of the most insane things to ever happen on Survivor. Pop culture is full of cinematic, terrifying encounters between people and sharks. You hear shark attack and you think the opening scene of Jaws, Samuel L. Jackson getting chomped 20 minutes into Deep Blue Sea, or my personal favorite, Tommy Wiseau's showdown with a big shark in Big Shark. He wasn't kidding, that shark was pretty big. But none stick in my mind more than Richard Hatch getting bitten by a shark in episode 3 of All Stars while out spearfishing in the nude. Don't get me wrong, Rich started this. He was out hunting, saw a shark, and wanted to kill it. So he cornered it under a rock, and after impaling it with the spear but not killing it, it bit him right on the arm in self-defense. And considering he was naked as the day he was born, he's lucky it was his arm. Rich takes his little guy ashore, then the shark too, which he bashes against a rock a few times. Then as revenge, he takes a bite out of the shark. What?
Can you see the bite marks?
Twice
Is it
today?
possible to call a gay man a stud?
Yeah.
I think you're a stud.
This is honestly one of the few lighthearted, entertaining scenes on this otherwise very dark season, and it's a nice reprieve from a game that was going to turn very nasty in short order. And for me, it's living proof for why Lex and Colby were never going to let Hatch get far in the game. Screw his incredible game savvy. He's simply too good at getting that precious screen time. At number 1, the craziest animal attack in Survivor history is Jake getting bitten by a snake in Survivor 49. I went back and forth on whether to make this number 1, but the unprecedented nature of both the bite and what we saw behind the scenes vaults this above Hatch and the shark attack for me. In episode 3 of Survivor 49, Jake, who was out playing Survivor with the knowledge that his pregnant wife was going to give birth during the filming of this season, was sitting in the water when a snake latched onto his foot for a moment. For production, this moment very quickly went from, whoa, a snake bit Jake, to, holy fucking shit, a snake bit Jake, oh my god, holy fuck. Once they realized what snake bit Jake. Banded sea kraits are one of the most venomous snakes in the world, and if left untreated, a bite has the potential to kill humans via paralysis and respiratory failure. Making this situation even crazier is that these snakes are generally not aggressive, and bites are exceptionally rare. Jeff said on his podcast that of the hundreds of Fijians on the crew, none had ever heard of anyone who had ever been bit by a sea krait, ever. Obviously, Jake was instantly brought to medical at base camp, where he was treated for the bite, which thankfully was a dry bite, meaning a bite with no venom. This gave us an unprecedented look behind the scenes of the show, from the production tents to the wildlife survival handbooks given to the players. Jeff shed even more light on this situation, which he called the second scariest moment in the show's history after Caleb's evacuation, on the podcast. Production actually lost radio contact with the boat crew while they were transporting Jake, and were understandably freaking out, fearing the worst. And though the bite wasn't venomous, Jake became the first player in Survivor history to be pulled from the game for an animal attack, both because he needed additional monitoring at an actual hospital to ensure his safety, but also purely from a fairness perspective, since all those IVs and fluids could be considered an unfair advantage. For me, this stands as one of the scariest, wildest moments in the history of the show, the gravity of which was not lost on the rest of the cast, when Jeff tells them at the following immunity challenge that Jake was pulled from the game following the snake bite. Even the other two tribes were extremely emotional and sympathetic both for Jake and for his tribe mates. And when Jake's tribe lose immunity again, there's little celebrating from Uli or Hina. It's genuinely sad, as the Kela tribe, which was once 4, is now down to 3 and will soon be down to 2, following Jake's snakebite elimination. Rizzo even does the ceremonial morning front flip dismount into the water. Truly a somber moment in Survivor history. Got nothing else for ya. If you want me in your ears every Sunday, like and subscribe and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.